Welcome to this MeetingsNet Fast Chat. My name is Sue Hatch. I'm the content director at MeetingsNet, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with two industry veterans from Caesars Entertainment. Raina Hirschdorfer, she's the director of marketing, national meetings and events, and Michelle Polsey, director of citywide catering sales, Las Vegas. Caesars has been out in front of the wellness trend with its wellness menus and its wellness activities. And today we're going to be talking about another layer of their leadership in the wellness space. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you, Sue.
First question, why the focus on wellness?
Well, Sue, we've been focusing on wellness for a little bit over 2 years now, and 2.5 if I include all the planning. As we know, 2.5 years ago, we just come out of the pandemic, and there was a large focus on wellness within the Caesars Entertainment organization. I was seeing a lot of emails about mental health, about physical health. We have a fitness center, and we have a lot of incentives to keep our team healthy and happy. When I started seeing all that, and also on my personal journey of starting yoga, because obviously it was a very stressful time for all of us. And I really started doing yoga 3-4 times a week and some meditation. Started thinking that, hey, why aren't we providing this for our clients? And it seemed like a really, a great idea, not that easy to execute, mind you. So I had to get all of the operational teams involved with that as well. And we decided to launch a wellness menu, and that was October 2 years ago during IMEX America, which seemed like a perfect time to let all of our clients know about this. So we've been on this journey for a little while already, and then just recently launched those menus for Atlantic City and Reno as well. The reason that we're focused on wellness is a couple of stats. I mean, you may already know this, but basically the wellness industry, there's a report that came out from McKinsey. There's a $1.8 trillion global industry, $480 billion in the U.S. alone. The market's growing at 5 to 10% per year, and 82% of U.S. consumers now consider wellness top or important priority for their everyday lives. So it only makes sense to add it into meetings. In addition to that, for meeting and events, we know that if you want to attract Gen Z, you want to attract millennials, you're really an target audience, and they are spending more on health and wellness than any other consumer in the marketplace. So it's an important aspect. Also, for meeting and events, we know that when you have wellness as part of a conference, it changes the energy. It changes the dialogue. It creates endorphins, higher engagement. So we think it's a win-win all around.
So now Caesars is diving into wellness botanical drinks. Can you tell us more about that?
I can take that one. I think, historically, if we looked, you see mocktails all over any menu you'd look at, and whether it's in a restaurant or a cruise ship, but really that was just a virgin of really fatty, sugary drink. And I think of a daiquiri or a pina colada. So there really wasn't that curated cocktail experience. So we want to get rid of the word mocktail in our universe, and we really are embracing the non-alcoholic and the zero proof. Botanical beverages is kind of like a moniker for this particular style of service we want to do. But so when you think of botanicals, really the nature of the word is it's from plants. So it's the flowers, the seeds, the leaf, the bark, the roots of the plant. So how do we take all those great ingredients and curate them into something different? So that was really what our focus was this year in presenting that to our customers.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that, the botanicals, obviously can be alcoholic or non-alcoholic, so you really have both options. But I think that what we're finding is that there's a big demand for non-alcoholic and low-sugar drink options. And we want to make sure that we're offering something a little bit more sophisticated than a Shirley Temple, right? We want everybody who is drinking a zero proof or a non-alcoholic botanical to feel like they're having a specialty cocktail just like everybody else.
And I think I like the word sophisticated because that's really what it comes down to. You want a sophisticated beverage. You don't want to feel like you have to have club soda and a lime just to kind of fit in with everybody. And when you're talking about your flavor profile, which is what customers are really interested in, it's hibiscus, rose, fennel, lavender, rosemary, muddled fruits, fresh edible flowers, which are just very earthy and organic and just lovely. And then you pair those with tonic waters, ginger, non-alcoholic bitters, teas, honey, and to give a little bit of sweetness. That's where you kind of hit all the marks of a really good beverage program.
So what is that difference between mocktail and botanical?
Really, the sugar element, I believe, and again, at mocktail, I go back to a very processed drink. And a zero proof, I go into a very sophisticated experience. There is quite the difference there when you think about it.
And what about the demand for low alcohol drinks versus the non-alcoholic drinks?
For me, I was thinking back on this question, and I think it probably started with the 90-calorie beers, a while back, and that market really exploded. And then all the seltzers, the hard seltzers hit the market, which is an extremely lucrative and popular line of beverages that are lower in alcohol. Most of them are also gluten-free, so it's kind of a win-win. But these kind of canned beverages are really great for pool events, concerts, tailgating, large format events that most customers just might want to offer beer and wine and not totally mixed alcohol, and mixed drinks. And so that kind of hits the mark there. But I think the seltzer market is really great for that. Again, beverages in cans. And now there's some really awesome zero proof botanical cocktails in cans that are going to follow suit and I believe dive into that market segment. So I think you're going to see more and more options for those groups that, need to do things that aren't in traditional ballroom spaces.
I'm sure this is a trend that meeting planners are going to want to get in on. But what is it that meeting planners should know about offering mocktails or botanical options for their groups?
I can take that one if you'd like, Michelle. I mean, I think that when I think about that, I think the importance is to provide options. I think that's what everybody's looking for, right? Is you can still have your traditional drinks, but you need to be able to offer the options depending on the audience profile. You really want to make sure that you know who are your attendees, right? If they are the beer drinking attendees, you probably don't want to offer botanicals. If it's a little bit more sophisticated audience, then, make botanicals part of it. Either have them on the bar, make sure you have a special sign for them, just like you would a specialty cocktail, or even set up a separate bar that's purely botanical without any alcohol.
Yeah, I would agree. You have to know who you're planning meetings for, right? Just like you're going to pick the perfect food program for them while they're there, what they need to eat and sustain. Really, is it going to go over? What are they going to like? What's going to be their flavor profile? Is it more women versus men? I mean, elderflower botanicals right now for the female population is one of the most popular trends we're seeing because everybody's drinking them in alcoholic drinks. So why not a non-alcoholic version? But yeah, just knowing your audience. And again, like Raina said, signage. So we can do all these kind of great programs to provide these drinks. But if the average attendee doesn't know it's, possible to have it unless they read it, then you've missed the mark. So that's something that we're just like you do a specialty drink on a wedding and you name it after something, you can certainly do a specialty zero proof botanical and name it after something really cool for the company or the event that's being planned.
That's great.
We recently included a zero proof botanical drink during IMEX in our booth. It was incredibly popular. And I think there are a lot of people who, they drink alcohol, but maybe you don't want to drink alcohol at 3:00 in the afternoon. Or maybe you want to start off with a cocktail and then you want to end with a botanical.
And I think for like the Gen and millennials, as you were talking about, they're a fear of alcohol. Like they're negative, how they're going to feel the next morning. So to have them be able to have one drink, but then supplement with the botanicals so they can continue on and the socializing and everything and feel like they're fitting in, but not have 5 regular drinks, but maybe 1 and 3. I think giving them that flexibility is really important in that segment.
I think what's also really interesting is that Gen Z, 40% of Gen Z has never touched alcohol.
No, they're focused on health and wellness more than I think you kind of alluded to that than any other generation that we've seen come up through the ranks. So I think that comes hand in hand.
I think so. And I also think that the reality is that there are alternatives to alcohol that are available in the marketplace.
So another question that would be on meeting planners' minds is whether or not they could expect to save a little money with botanicals or mocktails, since there is no expensive alcohol as part of the blend.
I would consider it like priced as a specialty cocktail. It's a very curated, bespoke experience with the stemware, with the garnish. So the prices are going to run the same as you would if you had a specialty cocktail.
And then if you were on a budget, of course, you can also do drinks that are not necessarily botanicals, that are a little bit more simple without alcohol. But then you're really talking more the sparkling waters with a little bit of juice along that line. You can still have it in a nice glass, but you're not really talking a true botanical.
Just elevating that experience.
Yes.
So can you talk about some of the most popular non-alcoholic beverages that your Caesars is serving now?
Yeah, this summer we found two that were my favorite, and then I saw on a lot of the menus were some can be, and some of the non-alcoholics be coffee and tea based. So us coffee drinkers out there, we don't want to shy away from that. But we did a really amazing cold brew with a vanilla sin and almond milk, a star anise syrup, and a praline dust, and that went over really, really well in the summer. We also did from a more of a traditional botanical cucumber juice, wildflower honey, parsley, and Pellegrino. And that was just a very vibrant and bright drink. And what I'm seeing is it's finally getting under 100 degrees here in Las Vegas, and we're ready to embrace the fall. We have an autumn cider with smoked bitters, allspice syrup, and fever-free ginger. And I think that one's going to be flying off the shelves this winter and menus, because it just kind of embraces everything that we're ready to experience with the colder weather.
That sounds amazing. I need the recipe. So what's next for wellness at Caesars?
So thanks for asking. We have a lot in store when it comes to wellness. The first thing I'd like to share with everybody is that we're planning a wellness roadshow. We're taking wellness on the road. We're going to go to 7 cities across the country, and we're going to give our customers an opportunity to experience wellness in their own cities, in unique locations, unique venues. We're going to bring in some of our speakers, some of our practitioners, our botanical drinks. We really want everybody to get a taste of it, because we feel really strongly that this is the future, and we want everybody to think about incorporating it into their conferences. And it certainly is a trend.
And how can people find out more information about that?
Well, thanks for asking, Sue. There is a QR code, which I believe will be in the fast chat and maybe it's popping up right now as well. And
Okay.
We're happy to answer any questions. We're looking forward to seeing everyone. And really thank you for the opportunity to talk about wellness.
Well, thank you for being on top of this trend and really delivering what I think meeting planners and their audiences are looking for in 2024, 2025. A big thank you to Raina Hirschdorfer and Michelle Pelosi from Caesars Entertainment. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.